shit, I just moved my whole fucking monitor. Alright, hello everyone. This is just gonna be a quick video because I've been getting some comments from people saying that they don't like to use all-terrain suspension in their heavies. And while I respect that decision, I want to show everyone what they might be missing out on, especially in heavy tanks with bad terrain resistance. Now, if you don't know what all-terrain suspension is, let me quick show you on tanks.gg. So here's tanks.gg. We've got the i7 pulled up. Here's the field mod I'm talking about. It's the second field mod on most heavy tanks. Maybe all heavy tanks, I don't know. But all-terrain suspension gives you minus 5% to hull traverse speed, plus 7% to maintaining speed when crossing all terrain types, which basically just improves your terrain resistance, which is a modifier which affects your acceleration on different types of terrain. There's hard terrain, medium terrain, and soft terrain, but most terrain is either hard or medium. And then it affects your suspension durability. So if you pick the all-terrain suspension field mod, you will be faster. However, your suspension durability will be worse. Now, if we look at the actual suspension durability, with all-terrain and with regular hardening in a hardening slot, the i7 has 371 track health. That means if an enemy rolls in damage greater than 370 damage and they hit your rear or front drive wheel sprocket, they will track you. So for example, an AMX 50B, if he rolls for 400, which is pretty typical, he will track you in one shot. But if it's an Object 140, he rolls for 320, he will not. So if I pick this other one over here, I get up to 450, which is quite a bit better because something like an AMX 50B has a much lower chance of tracking you, but something like an IS-7 is still going to track you most of the time unless they get a low damage roll. So I can understand why people want to pick this so that they don't get tracked, but I'm going to show you today why I basically always pick this unless it's on a tank where you're basically always at your top speed anyways. So first let me quickly go in game. First of all, I want to shout out Long Barrel Man, aka Pringles, who helped me out with this video by going in a training room with me. So today I'm going to be driving in a straight line on proc to demonstrate the speed of 3 different loadouts. The first loadout I'm going to be showing you is having all-terrain suspension selected. I'm just going to buy it just for demonstration purposes. So I'll have this selected, and I will have no turbo at all. This will be my loadout, no turbo. And by the way, for all 3 of these demonstrations, my crew and everything else about the tank will be exactly the same. The second replay, I'm going to be using no turbo once again, but this time I will be using this field mod. And this will just be a straight up comparison between the time it takes to drive a straight line on proc with all terrain versus without. And then lastly, my last replay is going to be showing with this field mod, the one that makes you slower, with a bounty turbo. And the reason why I wanted to include this third comparison is because, believe it or not, having this field mod instead of this one, even with a bounty turbo, it's slower than if you didn't have any turbo at all and you had this selected. That's how good this field mod is for speed on medium terrain. So that being said, let's quickly get into the first replay. And I'm just going to be taking this in one take because honestly, I hope that actually showed. If that didn't show, then I just wasted like 300,000 credits for nothing. Yeah, I'm going to be doing this in one take. I'll try to speed it up as fast as I can, but I just don't feel like editing, to be honest. And the reason I'm not just telling you the results is because I want hard evidence. Load replay. Alright, this is the first game. This is the game where I have all-terrain suspension activated. You see all-terrain suspension is active, and if you look down here at the beginning of the replay, I did not have a turbo. So I'm going to slow down. I'm going to show you how I did this. So what I'm doing is I'm lining myself up so that I start in exactly K1 on this border, and I just travel straight up this border using my gun direction indicator to drive in an exactly straight line. And I start driving at exactly 29 minutes. So as you can see, at exactly 29 minutes I start driving, and I'm going in pretty much an exactly straight line. I just vary minutely if I see that I'm slightly off track. And these guys weren't Pringles, so I kind of had to try not to get tracked by them. They're just some random people I pulled into my training room. But I hit the red line at 27:36, and right here it took me, or 27:37 I should say, took me a minute 23 seconds. So let's go to the next game. The next game, as I said previously, is going to be the opposite field mod of all-terrain suspension, so the one that makes you slower, and once again, no turbo at all. And the process that I use will be exactly the same. All the crew skills are the same. I use food in both replays. Everything else is exactly the same, so the only difference is the field mod. So you can see, no turbo. I write in chat, all terrain deactivated. And in fact, it's not just deactivated. My field mod isn't neutral. I have the other field mod selected. I don't know what it was called. Now, what you'll actually see is I try to start driving at 29 minutes exactly. I barely even make it to my spot in position by 29 minutes. So here's 29 minutes starting. I'm still not, my butt is still not against the red line. So I go against the red line. It's already 28:58 by the time I start. But I take that into account in my final calculations. So don't worry about that. That didn't affect the, I mean, I might be off by like, at most, like a second. But as you'll see, it does not really make a difference. You'll see it's pretty accurate. And I go directly down the line. I don't fuck it up. So I hit the wall at 27:24. It was roughly a minute 35, which was, according to my calculations, got a notepad, 12 seconds slower, and we can do some more math. 95 divided by 83. It was 14.5% slower. I hope that made sense, and I hope that was correct. I hope I didn't just fuck up my math. Or I should say it took 14% longer to reach the destination. So yeah, 14% slower. I think that makes sense. Alright, third replay. I hope I just clicked on the right replay. I think I did. The third replay, as I mentioned before, this time I do not have all-terrain suspension activated. I have the other field mod which makes you slower activated, but I am using a bounty turbo. So you would probably intuitively think, as you see, here's a bounty turbo. I write in chat, all-terrain deactivated, the other one is activated with a bounty turbo. You might expect that this will be faster than just the field mod alone, but it's not actually. So this time I actually get into position on time. And I start driving at 0-0. Let's just speed this up a lot. This was a game where Pringles helped me. And I hit the red line at about 27:34. That took a minute 26 seconds roughly. So, in conclusion, looking at my notepad, all-terrain active with no turbo took a minute 23. All-terrain deactivated in the other field mod activated, which makes you slower, and no turbo, a minute 35, 14% slower. All-terrain deactivated, but this time with a bounty turbo, still took 3 seconds longer than no turbo at all with the all-terrain field mod active. So I think this just proves that all-terrain, at least on tanks with bad, at least on heavies without good terrain resistance, is usually a pretty good idea. And I think the i7 is the most obvious case of that. So, I think I have proved my point. So that will be the end of this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.